Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Malaysia. Over 100 deaths in detention centers must be investigated. Harassment of academics in Pakistan continues. Taiwanese activist detained in China. Indian prisoner acquitted of rape and murder after serving 8 years. Calls for Chinese government to uphold due process in upcoming lawyer trials. Indonesian police to investigate protester death as no action taken against cement factory. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Annie Lin. This week, Just Asia begins with Malaysia, where more than 100 foreigners in immigration detention centers have died in the past 2 years. There were 83 deaths in 2015 and at least 35 in 2016 from various diseases and unknown causes. More than half of the 118 dead are from Burma, the source of thousands of refugees coming to Malaysia, including Rohingya Muslims escaping persecution. A commissioner from the National Human Rights Commission, who has visited several detention centers in the country, Gerald Joseph, described conditions at the centers as appalling and said the deaths should be investigated as a criminal matter. Joseph said the deaths may have been caused or exacerbated by poor sanitation and food, physical abuse, and a lack of medical attention. Interviews with former detainees revealed that most detainees did not get adequate food, water, or health care, and that the sick are usually not isolated, leading to the spread of contagious diseases. According to a former Rohingya inmate, he saw detainees die after their injuries from being beaten were not treated. In Pakistan, the government continues to harass academics. Most recently, a professor at Karachi University, Dr. Riaz Ahmed, was arrested by Pakistan Rangers on April 1st, just before he was to address a press conference regarding detention of his colleague. For the past few months, the Pakistani government has been chasing academics who want to change the country's centuries-old education system. One particular way of harassing them has been accusing them of blasphemy. Dr. Riaz Ahmed was ill-treated by the Rangers and kept in secret detention for 36 hours. He was then handed over to the police and charged with carrying firearms. Unable to prove the firearm charge, state media is now maligning him of running a blasphemous blog. While it is common for academics and intellectuals to be accused of running blasphemous blogs, the government has been unable to prove a single case. Earlier in January, Mr. Salman Haider Goraya, a professor from Fatima Jinnah University and prominent writer, was arrested in Islamabad. Detained for 2 months, he was tortured to confess that he was running blasphemous blogs. After considerable national and international protest, he and other 4 bloggers were released and sent outside the country. 2 other retired professors and writers are also continuously threatened by the Muslim fundamentalists belonging to the ruling alliance. Next, Taiwanese activist Lee Ming-che has been detained by authorities in China on suspicion that he took part in activities endangering state security. China's Taiwan Affairs Office announced his detention on March 29th, 10 days after Lee went missing in the Chinese territory of Macau. Taiwanese officials have been asking China the reason for Lee's detention as well as the laws relevant to his case. Campaigners in Hong Kong and Taiwan are calling for Lee's release as well as guarantees that he will not be tortured. In India, the Hyderabad High Court acquitted Sachin Babu in the Ayesha rape and murder case on March 31st. Sachin Babu has been serving a life sentence for the past 8 years after court found him guilty in 2010. 19-year-old Ayesha Mira, a pharmacy student, was found to have been raped and murdered in a hostel in 2007. According to Sachin Babu's lawyer during the trial, there was insufficient evidence against the accused and there was no scientific evidence or direct witnesses to implicate Sachin Babu. At the same time, Ayesha's family members were reported as saying they do not think Sachin Babu is responsible for Ayesha's rape and murder. 10 years later, in 2017, they have been vindicated as the High Court has acquitted Sachin Babu on grounds of no evidence. The court has also directed the Andhra Pradesh government to pay him 100,000 rupees in compensation. The police are challenging the acquittal, stating that the investigation was done without prejudice and that there was DNA evidence to back their case. In China, a group of international and local NGOs and lawyers are calling on the Chinese government to uphold fair trial principles and due process in the upcoming trials of prominent lawyers and activists. Li Heping, Wang Quanzhang, Xi Yan and Wu Gan are all awaiting trial for allegedly subverting state power. All four individuals have complained of torture and inhuman treatment during detention. Since July 2015, the Chinese government has cracked down on over 300 human rights lawyers, law firm staff and human rights defenders. Many of them were subsequently indicted, and in August 2016, individuals in 4 cases were convicted and sentenced in a heavily flawed trial process. One individual, prominent lawyer Zhou Shifeng, was sentenced to 7 years imprisonment, based largely on his confessions during detention. Referring to Zhou's sentencing in a speech on March 12, President of China's Supreme Court touted the achievement of courts in safeguarding national security and social stability. Activists now worry that the crackdown on human rights lawyers is far from over. Lastly, in Indonesia, Jakarta police have announced they will investigate and summon activists involved in the death of cement factory protester Mrs. Padme, despite the doctor stating that Mrs. Padme passed away due to health issues. Meanwhile, President Widodo has taken no action since the protests and deaths of Mrs. Padme on March 21st to stop the development of cement factory in Kendeng, Rempang Regency, Central Java. Protesters and human rights activists are very disappointed with the government's indifference to this matter. While the Rempang farmers took Mrs. Padme's body back to Rempang for burial, local activists organized a solidarity protest in front of the presidential palace, including students from Papua. They called on the government to respect the court order to stop all cement factory activities in the Kendeng Karst area. Just Asia speaks to Mr. Fat Kulkoya, coordinator of Contra Surabaya, for his views.
Ya, saya pikir apa yang dilakukan warga terkait dengan penolakan terhadap pembangunan pabrik semen ini perlu patut diacungi jempol ya. Saya kira ini warga memang tahu detail ya mengenai apa dampak terhadap pembangunan semen atas keberlangsungan kehidupan mereka. Ini yang menjadi landasan penolakan pabrik semen. Nah, soal posisi negara saya pikir ini yang kami sangat sayangkan ya ketika perjuangan warga sampai 1 orang meninggal dunia dan istana tidak bergeming. Ini menunjukkan bahwa pemerintah dalam konteks soal pembangunan memang tidak pernah memperhatikan dampak lingkungan dan lain sebagainya. Ya, saya kira ini pengangkatan Sutioso terhadap sebagai komisaris ini kan kami melihatnya ini bagian dari upaya untuk melemahkan perjuangan warga ya. Jadi aneh juga ketika mantan kepala BIN harus memegang posisi komisaris di perusahaan pabrik semen. Artinya soal kemampuan dan kapasitas kan perlu dipertanyakan soal kredibilitasnya dalam konteks pengelolaan industri. Dalam hal ini saya melihat masih jauh ya kemungkinan bahwa Presiden akan merubah kebijakan terhadap perusahaan semen. Karena memang saya melihatnya dalam 3 tahun kepemimpinan Jokowi ini kan lebih banyak proses infrastruktur kan yang dikuatkan kan, tanpa memperhatikan aspek terhadap pembangunan itu seperti apa dampak terhadap ekologis dan kesejahteraan masyarakat. Ini yang saya melihat di situ, karena Jokowi ini kan masih melanjutkan kebijakan yang presiden mendahulunya ya, soal MT3I dan lain sebagainya. Jadi saya kira masih jauh lah harapan.
That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.